Let's get you back to one of the top stories we're following. As the U.S. dramatically expands its military presence in the Caribbean, Donald Trump is suggesting there may be a diplomatic way out with Venezuela. Over the weekend, the State Department announced it would designate Cartel de los Soles, a group Washington claims is run by the country's president, as a foreign terrorist organization. It's a move Trump suggested could allow the U.S. to strike certain assets inside of Venezuela. Hours earlier, the world's largest aircraft carrier crossed over into Caribbean waters. And a day before that, the Pentagon announced its 21st known strike on what it's calling drug trafficking boats. International concerns are growing over the legality of those attacks. A few weeks ago, Trump suggested that he does not need congressional approval for the strikes. And now he's indicating that he doesn't need it either for any military action inside of Venezuela. Well, the president is also suggesting that Venezuela wants to talk. Senior military analyst and retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton joins me now live. Great to see you.
It's great to see you too, Lynda.
We heard just over the weekend, Colonel, that the president said he's made up his mind, sort of, when it comes to options for Venezuela. When a president signals that publicly, what does that usually tell you as to where things stand and how close we could be to any sort of operation?
Usually it would indicate that you're fairly close to seeing something happen in a military sense. In other words, a type of kinetic strike possibly would be in the offing, but it could also have served as a signal to the Venezuelans that if they don't act soon in a diplomatic sense, they might lose time when it comes to the military action. So it may have been an effort by President Trump to pressure Venezuelan President Maduro and have him basically go to the table at this point diplomatically.
I mean, it's certainly an interesting way to go about getting diplomatic talks, really, when you think of the scale of what's been deployed so far. 12 ships, 15,000 troops, an attack submarine, F-35s ready to go as part of this Operation Southern Spear. Some analysts are calling this the biggest buildup since the 1989 Panama invasion. I mean, would you do all of this just to get on the phone with, a foreign leader?
I personally wouldn't, but this is a very different type of administration when it comes to these kinds of things. And I think what we're seeing here is, the preponderance of force, as you described, Lynda, is much more than what you would need for normal counter-drug operations. So now they have moved assets, in the case of the USS Gerald R from the European theater and the Middle Eastern theater all the way to the Caribbean. And that is a lot of firepower. Just on the Gerald Ford, you have 4,000 sailors and Marines on that vessel, plus a contingent of F/A-18 fighter jets that could be added then to the 10 F-35s that are based in Puerto Rico at the moment. So this is an effort by the Trump administration to really focus attention on Latin America as opposed to other parts of the world, and it seems to be something that has been top of mind for this administration from a geopolitical standpoint and a policy standpoint. Now, this, of course, is the other question here would be, does this leave other parts of the world unattended to? And in this case, I think it does. So it's a dangerous situation that we're possibly in here because other things could be happening in the Middle East. Certainly, we have the Russia-Ukraine situation and, of course, Taiwan-China. So each of these areas would require attention by themselves. But now with Venezuela basically being at the forefront of everything, it really begs the question as to what real foreign policy efforts are underway within the Trump administration. And it seems that they're going to be focused on the Western Hemisphere more than anything else. At least that's their plan at the moment.
Yeah, you make some good points there. We know that the president was briefed on a range of options from, airstrikes on government military facilities to trafficking trafficking routes, and even options that could potentially remove the president, Nicolas Maduro. From a military point of view, how sophisticated and risky are those types of operations?
So they can be very, very sophisticated, and even if they don't involve a lot of force, in terms of numbers of personnel, they require a great deal of planning. In the run-up to the operation in Panama, the 1989 option invasion that you referred to, we had 26,000 troops conduct that operation, and we had the advantage of having military bases still within Panamanian territory. This is very different. There are no U.S. military bases on Venezuelan territory. We don't have the number of troops that would be necessary to take over a country that is basically 10 times the size of Panama. The other part of this, though, is that when it comes to the actual planning for something like this, it took about 2 years to plan for Panama. We certainly haven't seen that degree of planning, at least consistent planning, with regards to Venezuela. Now, Maduro could very well be a target in the sense of being somebody that the Trump administration would like to see removed from office, and there's a certain legitimacy to that when it comes to the fact that Maduro actually did not win, based on international observations, did not win the last presidential election in Venezuela. But putting that aside for a second, we really don't have the manpower right now, from a military sense, to do that particular operation unless it's a very precise special operations type mission, and that would be the kind of thing that we would have to see here. They do have the capability of doing that, but the question is whether or not they'll use it, and use it for that particular purpose.
Colonel Cedric Leighton, always great to get your analysis. Thanks so much.
You bet, Lynda. Thank you so much.